You didn't just surprise them. That's the part they still don't know how to say out loud. Surprise implies expectation. This was worse. This was the moment trained minds froze because what you didn't arrive through any channel they were watching. Somewhere in a room with bad lighting and colder coffee. People whose job is to predict behavior stared at screens that suddenly felt untrustworthy. Not because the data was wrong, but because the conclusion refused to sit still. You weren't supposed to move like that. You weren't supposed to think that way. And yet there it was, already done, already irreversible, already forcing recalculation. Right now, there are people with clearances you'll never hear about scrolling backward through your trail. Not to admire it, but to locate the error. They are not asking what you did. They are asking how they missed the moment you became capable of doing it. Because their confidence depends on one belief, that nothing meaningful happens without leaving a trace they can monitor. You violated that belief without announcing yourself. No alarms, no build-up, just results sitting where there shouldn't be results yet. That's what rattled them first. They started with the obvious explanations, external help, hidden backing, some unseen advantage. They needed something outside of you to point at, because the alternative was unacceptable. The alternative was that you made a decision before permission appeared, before consensus formed, before approval had time to dress itself up as caution. That kind of move terrifies people trained to wait for confirmation, especially when the outcome works. What's happening behind the scenes right now isn't anger. It's escalation, quiet, clipped conversations, names mentioned without context, screens shared without commentary. They replay the sequence again and again, not because it changes, but because they expect it to. Because trained minds are uncomfortable when cause and effect don't line up the way they were taught. You didn't follow the standard arc. No gradual warming, no public preparation, no visible struggle phase they could tag and label. You skipped the part they rely on to feel in control. They're trying to map your behavior onto familiar profiles. That's where the real panic starts. You don't fit. You don't over-explain. You don't perform competence. You don't telegraph intent. You didn't signal hunger or desperation or the usual tells. You moved as if the outcome was already settled internally, long before it appeared externally. That breaks models. That creates doubt. And doubt, in rooms like those, spreads faster than certainty. Someone suggested you got lucky. That suggestion didn't last long. Luck leaves fingerprints, patterns, repeatable errors. What you did showed restraint, timing, and a refusal to chase recognition. That combination is rare, not flashy, not loud, just precise. Precision without visible rehearsal is what made the room go quiet in that particular way, where no one wants to be the next person to speak. They started pulling everything, old posts, old decisions, minor choices that didn't seem important at the time. They're trying to reconstruct a version of you that makes sense to them. The problem is, they're starting from the wrong assumption. They believe transformation announces itself. They believe capability grows in public. They believe pressure creates tells. You disproved all of that by operating privately and delivering publicly. By the time they noticed, the move had already settled into reality. What unsettles them most is not the scale of what you pulled off. It's the restraint surrounding it. No victory lap, no explanation thread, no attempt to frame the narrative. You didn't rush to be understood. You didn't try to control interpretation. You let the results speak and left the room mentally before anyone finished reacting. That behavior doesn't match ambition as they understand it. It matches something else entirely. Something colder, something more settled. They're comparing timelines now, yours versus everyone else's, and it doesn't add up. Where others accumulate visible effort, you accumulated clarity. Where others seek validation before moving, you moved and let validation scramble to catch up. That inversion is what's causing the stress fractures in their thinking. Because if your approach works, then the long rituals they've trusted start to look optional. And if those rituals are optional, a lot of authority loses weight overnight. Behind closed doors, someone asked the question no one wanted to answer. What if this wasn't a one-off? What if this is how you operate now? Not reactive, not loud, just deliberate, detached, already 3 steps past the conversation everyone else is still having. That question changed the tone of the room, because a single unexpected success can be dismissed. A pattern forces respect. They're watching how others respond to you. That's the tell. Not your behavior, but the shift around you. Conversations recalibrate when your name comes up. People hesitate before speaking. Comparisons start forming without permission. You've become a reference point without trying to be one. And reference points are dangerous because they reorganize hierarchy quietly. Notice how no one is publicly confronting you. That's not courtesy, that's caution. Direct engagement would require them to acknowledge you as a peer or a variable worth addressing. They're not ready for that, so they observe instead. They analyze at a distance. They build theories that allow them to keep their existing worldview intact for a little longer. They tell themselves you must have had access others didn't, that you must have known something secret, that you must have bent a rule somewhere. Anything to avoid the conclusion that you simply chose differently, earlier, faster, with less need for reassurance. Because if that's true, then hesitation starts to look like a personal failure rather than wisdom. What's fascinating is how much energy they're spending trying to understand you, while you're not spending any thinking about them at all. That asymmetry is not lost on the sharper minds in the room. Attention usually flows toward power. Right now, it's flowing toward you without invitation. And the more they focus, the more they reveal their own limits. They're especially disturbed by how calm the outcome looks. No chaos, no mess, no visible scramble, just a clean shift from one state to another. That kind of movement suggests preparation that didn't need witnesses. It suggests inner alignment that didn't require applause. And that's uncomfortable for institutions built around visibility and consensus. Someone pulled up an old assessment of you. It didn't age well. That happens when people mistake potential for trajectory. They assumed you would move when conditions were right, when support appeared, when the environment softened. You moved when your internal position was settled. Those are very different triggers. One is external, one is final. They're not saying this part out loud, but it's there beneath the analysis. If you can do this without signaling, without gathering permission, without asking to be taken seriously, then others might try. And if others try, the entire structure of predictability they rely on starts to wobble. You didn't just act. You demonstrated a mode of operation that bypasses their filters. Now they're paying attention to what you don't do. You don't rush to clarify. You don't correct misinterpretations. You don't soften your edges to be more palatable. You let people sit with their confusion. That restraint reads as confidence, whether you intend it or not. It forces everyone else to do the emotional labor you refused to do for them. The irony is, you're not trying to unsettle anyone. You're not posturing. You're not playing a long intimidation game. You're simply aligned with your own decisions. But alignment without apology is disruptive to environments addicted to negotiation and delay. They feel it as pressure because it exposes the gap between thought and action they've been living with for years. They're starting to divide their internal narratives into before and after. Before they saw what you pulled off, and after they had to accept that it happened. That division is subtle, but permanent. Once people witness a boundary collapse, they can't unsee it. They can only decide whether to adapt or pretend it never mattered. Some will downplay it publicly. You'll hear phrases that sound casual, but carry tension underneath. Interesting, but let's see what happens next. It's impressive, but context matters. These aren't evaluations, they're shields. Ways to keep the ground from shifting too fast under their feet. What they don't realize yet is that you're already past the need for acknowledgement. The move did its job the moment it was executed. Everything after that is noise. You're not waiting for confirmation that it worked. You're already positioned for what comes after. That's the part they haven't caught up to yet. Because while they're still trying to explain what you did, you're already adjusting to the new terrain it created. You're watching reactions the way others watch weather, not as something to fear, but as information that doesn't change your direction. That detachment is what's making it hard for them to predict your next step. And here's where their analysis really starts to break down. They keep assuming there must be a next step they can anticipate, a pattern they can lock on to, a rhythm they can chart. They haven't realized yet that your advantage isn't speed or intelligence or access. It's decisiveness without drama, action without announcement, commitment without spectators. That's why the conversations keep looping. That's why the files stay open on screens late into the night. They're not chasing your move anymore. They're chasing the mindset that allowed it. And that's not something you can extract or imitate easily. It's not a tactic, it's a posture. The more they look, the clearer it becomes that there was no sudden transformation they can point to. No single turning point, just a quiet accumulation of choices made without asking if they were allowed. That's unsettling to anyone who built their authority on the idea that permission precedes action. They're starting to understand that what really happened wasn't a breakthrough. It was a refusal to wait, a refusal to explain, a refusal to operate inside expectations that were never designed with you in mind. That kind of refusal doesn't announce itself. It just shows up as results other people aren't ready to explain. That realization is what pushed the conversation into a different gear. Not louder, not more dramatic, colder, more deliberate. Because once they accepted that there was no hidden turning point, no dramatic before and after moment they could isolate, they had to confront something far more uncomfortable. You didn't change suddenly. You changed quietly. And by the time they noticed, it was already too late to intervene. They started reviewing your behavior with a different lens. Not looking for effort, not looking for struggle, looking for certainty. And what unsettled them was how early that certainty appeared, compared to when the outcome finally surfaced. You were acting from a settled place long before the world had evidence you earned the right to do so. That gap between internal decision and external proof is where their discomfort lives. This is where the tone in those rooms shifted from curiosity to unease. Because the usual leverage points weren't there. No visible fear to apply pressure to. No hunger for approval they could manipulate. no overexposure they could use to box you in. You weren't moving to be seen. You were moving to be correct. And correctness without spectacle doesn't give observers much to grab onto. They're used to watching people escalate loudly, to seeing ambition announce itself through noise, through performance, through endless positioning. You didn't do that. You moved with an economy that suggested you weren't trying to win an argument. You were trying to arrive at a result. That distinction matters more than most people realize. Someone pointed out that you never tried to justify the move afterward. That's when a few faces tightened. Because justification is how power is negotiated in public. It's how authority gets softened so it can be tolerated. You didn't soften anything. You let the outcome stand without translation. That wasn't arrogance, it was detachment. And detachment is far harder to counter than bravado. They're beginning to suspect that the reason they didn't see you coming is because you weren't broadcasting your internal shifts. You didn't narrate the process. You didn't invite commentary. You didn't ask for consensus. You made decisions privately and let consequences handle the announcement. That method strips observers of their favorite illusion, the belief that awareness equals influence. What's happening now is a kind of retroactive anxiety. They're replaying past interactions with you and noticing moments that felt insignificant at the time. Pauses, refusals to engage in pointless debate, a tendency to exit conversations early, a lack of urgency around being liked. At the time, those traits were dismissed as neutrality. Now they read differently. Now they look like preparation. The more they connect those dots, the more they realize how little leverage they ever had. You weren't waiting to be chosen. You weren't trying to be validated. You weren't positioning yourself within an existing ladder. You were deciding independently of it. That's what made the move so hard to anticipate. You weren't playing the same timing game. This is the part where frustration starts to bleed through the analysis. Not outwardly, not emotionally, but in the way questions get sharper, more repetitive. They keep circling the same point, hoping a different angle will reveal something new. How did you know when to move?